is advised.
Hi, welcome to the Liam Scheff Show on UCY TV and Truth Frequency Radio. And I'll be adding a new Sunday show, more news about that. And I'll be adding a new Friday show, more news about that during the break. It'll be a 2-hour, it'll be a call-in. You'll be able to call me and ask me questions. I know. What will happen? What could possibly happen? This is Deep Sex Talk. This is the Liam Scheff Show. My book is Official Stories. My other book is The Truth About Love. My upcoming book is going along with the show called Deep Sex Talk. I talk about sex. I talk about the official stories of our time, the lies that we're told to keep us from really thinking, keep us buying, keep us going to Black Friday sales. Oh, did everybody get something on Black Friday? I got a sweater I have to return. It was $14, and that's still too expensive for something I'm never going to wear. But I need a sweater. It's going to be winter. It is winter. It's cold. I need a sweater. I need another sweater. Why do I need two? Because I don't really have a winter jacket. I just layer. Why get a winter jacket when I can layer? Why? Sorry, it was rhetorical. Rhetorical. No, not what you think I said. I didn't. That's a libelous thing to... How dare you? Let me fix this chair. Liam, what are we going to talk about today? That's the question. What are we going to talk about? How about love? Liam, why are you always so bad? Why are you so mean to us monogamous people? Because I don't know any. How's that? I've never met one. I've met people who say they are, and then they tell me what they think. And they tell me... they tell me what they think about. They tell me what's on their mind. Or their partner tells me what they're thinking about or what they're doing that the partner doesn't think that they know, and then the other partner comes and tells me, hey, don't tell my partner this, but this, and the other thing. Everywhere that I've been, all over the country, all over the world, every monogamous person I meet comes and tells me their secrets, and I got to tell you something. You're all full of shit. You're all full of shit. Every one of you is full of some kind of shit. And Liam, some of us are monogamous. It's just the way we are. We're monogamous. You know what? I want to stand up and take a different angle today. And I'm going to say something that you may not think I know, but I understand. I want to do a show in defense of monogamy because it doesn't really exist, but it does in moments. And it's those moments that people mistake for the entire course of long, decade-long, 20, 30-year relationships. They think that those moments have to be the whole thing. Those moments don't have to be the whole thing. We'll get into that in a second. In the second half of the show, I want to touch on what tribes do around the world, how people choose based on environmental conditions, based on the availability of materials. Materials, I said. Materials. There's a sexy word. Sorry, I'm shuffling bags and my chair's squeaking. Whatever, it's going to be one of those shows. At least I'm not tapping the desk. Materials. Based on the availability of resources, people form different kinds of relationship structures. Oh, you think that some tribes are just a bunch of heinous bastards who beat up women and cut their... Oh, God, I don't even want to say it. I hate that stuff. I hate circumcision. Female circumcision is a no. Male circumcision, no. Why did these cultures do this? Well, there are reasons. They're not entirely logical reasons, but they form in that... they form in the direction, the vector, the funnel. They go down this tube, if you will, this cultural tube. They form in a manner that totally relates to their environment and what they know they can get out of their environment in terms of resources. So we're going to talk about that in the second half of the show. If that doesn't excite you, I don't know what will. Last week was sort of the year of Charlie Sheen. I did Mike Adams' show, and I did Robert Scott Bell's show, and I did Frankie V's show on Zen TV, and I did all kinds of shows. Everybody wants to know about that. So I got a number of more, hits and likes and dislikes and people asking me questions about how they can get off of this drug or that drug. And I always say the same thing. I'm not your doctor, and go do a lot of reading and heal your gut. Heal your gut, whatever you do, whatever you choose to do, whether you choose to believe tests or disbelieve tests, whether you choose to read the fine print or don't read the fine print, know that it starts in your gut. Cut out the sugar, cut out the crap, cut out the soda, cut out anything with sugar in it. Get rid of that. Stop putting inflammatory agents into your body. Stop eating fried things that just, corrode your cells with fats that are just poison to your cells. Stop eating poison. First thing to do, stop eating poison. Stop putting poison into your body. Stop bombarding your body with toxic poisons. While you're doing that, build up your gut lining, build up your intestinal health. So important. If you got holes in your gut, I don't care what you think is wrong with you, no drug is going to save you. You got to fix your gut. So I always start there. And remember, I'm not a doctor, I don't play one on TV, so whatever. Don't take my advice, take my advice. Doesn't really matter to me. We're all going down in a flaming wreckage of the 20th century. But before we do, let's talk about monogamy. Now, Liam, you say, Charlie Sheen wasn't monogamous, and look what happened to him. Well, what happened to him was he was a big, giant, drug-addicted or drug-using slut, and or whore, or whatever, and he was ruining his body. Somebody he was with went and got one of those fake tests, and because somebody he was with got one of those fake tests, he probably had to be pressured into getting one of those fake tests, or he did it unknowingly, as everybody does, and now he's stuck with this scarlet letter. That's the way that they manage you. And that comes out of something called Leviticus. Leviticus is a book in the Torah, the Pentateuch. Oh, no, it's not in the Pentateuch. Leviticus is a book in the Torah that... Oh, no, I think it's in the Pentateuch. Anyway, it's a book in one of the first 5 books of this collection of Hebrew fairy tales and, Hercules myths and all that bullshit called the Bible. It wasn't called the Bible for thousands of years, and then... or 1,000, and then the late Roman Empire decided to codify their Mithra worship and their Isis Horus cults into this new, they call it syncretic religion, something where they borrow from everything and hammer it together. And they said that if you convert to this and also Roman allegiance, you'll be saved. Saved from what? Well, they had to invent the idea that you were going to die horribly in an afterlife if you did anything that the pedophile popes and the priests running brothels that they said wasn't okay. So anyway, that got instituted. So I don't want to talk about religion today. I want to talk about monogamy. And I want to stand up for monogamy, because I'm often saying that we're not a monogamous species. I'll say it again. We're not a very monogamous species. In fact, take the most monogamous person. Take somebody who's deeply in love. Let's say I'm deeply in love. Now put me on a boat, a cruise ship, right? Now crash that cruise ship into an island. The person who I'm deeply in love with is stuck back in, I don't know, Austin, Texas, pick Canada, I don't know, just pick a place, far away from the cruise ship, right? So all the way out in so I'm over here in the Caribbean. The cruise ship is stuck on a little sand island with just coconut trees, and it's not even, somehow it never got mapped, and nobody knows where it is. And let's say there are 15 survivors. Well, let's say there are 5 guys and 10 girls. What happens? It's not, I'm pining, I'm crying, I'm in love with somebody far away, I'm deeply in love. What happens in a short period of time? I bury my tears in somebody's open arms, and then things happen, and I regret it, and I say, it wouldn't happen if I weren't here. And then in a short period of time, it becomes habit. And it's not the same. It's not the same as the person I love, but it's a person. And it's a person to give support. So I'm grateful. And then I start to love because I'm grateful, but the person is not my person who I really miss. And I'm still holding out hope that I get to see that. In other words, I'm loving 2 people for different reasons. This happens all the time. We love people for different reasons all the time. Some people we love more. Some people we're frankly deeper in bed with, or deeper in business with, or deeper in hawk with. I mean, there are reasons that there are things that keep people together after periods of time that don't have anything to do with, romantic love or maybe the memory of it, but they're just real life reasons. Business together. Let's say you form a business with somebody that you were involved with. Well, you're going on for a long period of time. Let's say you're not that into them anymore. Or let's say that your attention wanders and you want to go do some other things and you still want to keep the business going. You have to have a very difficult conversation. I know people who this has happened to. I, barring all names, as I always will do, I'll call everybody Punch and Judy. Anyway, let's say Judy decides that she wants to go off and do some other things. She's got a long-term running business and a relationship with Punch. So she has to go now to Punch and say, hey, I want to keep the business going, but I also want to go find some other puppets to have experiences with. Punch might get very angry and say, I'm going to break the business into pieces. Judy says, but the business is great. Why would you break the business into pieces? Well, I have to. That's Judeo-Christian law. If a woman does anything, she's a slut and a whore, and I get to do whatever I want, and I'm the one being wronged. Women can do the same thing. Let's say Punch comes back and says, Judy, we've done great business together, but I kind of want to see what some of the other puppets have under their skirts, because all I see under yours is a weird hand going down into an arm of a giant. So, I made myself. Don't make yourself laugh, Liam. Isn't that self-indulgent? You're listening to the Liam Scheff Show on UCY TV and Truth Frequency Radio. It's Deep Sex Talk. Let's say that Punch wants to go out and do something, and Judy says, no, you've cheated on me. Lawyer. And she gets the puppet lawyer, and she takes Punch for everything he's worth. She takes the business from him. He's left with nothing except the little puppets he was chasing to have more puppet experiences with, and he's not happy, and she's not even happy. She doesn't want to run the business alone. The whole thing is an albatross around her little puppet neck, a memory of what was. She's not pleased anymore. Well, there's monogamy for you, because Punch and Judy at one point really, they dug each other. They were good. They were okay. They said, do you want to do this? I want to do this. I'm so turned on by this right now, I could never imagine that I would ever be turned on by anything else. Do you pledge eternal allegiance to my puppet genitals? I pledge eternal allegiance to your puppet genitals. We'll never need anybody else's puppet genitals. Well, 5 years into it, the business is going well, and somehow, without meaning to, Punch remembers, he doesn't know why this happens, but he's been with Judy like maybe 7,000 times. 7,000 times. And not just sexually. They've been together year after year, day after day, and he knows everything about Judy. He knows everything about her, or at least he knows everything that she tells him, and she doesn't tell him everything. But he knows a hell of a lot. He knows how she reacts in every situation. He sort of knows the game. He knows what the funny spots are. He knows what works and what doesn't. They have a friendship. They're good with each other. They're not mean to each other. If they are, they bring each other up and say, hey, knock it the fuck off. Punch, Judy. But somehow he's off doing a puppet thing, and he meets another puppet, and he shakes his head, and he says, God, and he remembers that for like however long it was before he met Judy, 30 years, 20 years, whatever it was, he used to like women puppets, and he forgot that he liked women puppets. So here he is, and he likes a woman puppet, and he goes, what am I supposed to do? I'll just destroy our whole business together. We have this whole Punch and Judy business where we go around and we do this play and everybody watches us and everybody laughs. It's Punch and Judy. What am I supposed to do? Well, he thinks he's got a couple options. I can just very quietly make this other woman puppet promise never to say anything about this, and we'll just go behind, a place that nobody will see us, and we'll have puppet fun. And we'll just pretend that we didn't. Oh my God, it would feel so good to have some extra. Why would it feel good to have extra puppet? I thought that I was only in love with this one person for life. Puppet person. I thought that Judy was my only puppet that I would ever need to love. And Judy thought the same thing of Punch. But it turns out that after 10 years, and Punch, by the way, has been carrying on this thing with the puppet thing on the side for 5 years, and 5 years later, Judy meets this other puppet, and she says, God, we built this whole thing together, but, I'm sort of getting my head turned around. I don't know what to do about this. Well, I guess I could try to quietly, but then I'd be awful, and I don't know if I can. So she goes to talk to Punch about it, and he gets outraged. How could you? How could you? And then she realizes that there's been a sign of him going. He's always been out on a certain night of the week, and there was never a poker game. Why did she fall for that? She asked him, are you seeing another puppet person? And he's, no, I would never do that. And it goes on for days like that of fighting. He's denying, running around. They're playing Punch and Judy. Why would you do that to? No. Oh, we're going to have to. No. Finally, at the end, they both stop. Punch says, look, if I tell you, are you going to just scream at me and hate me, or are you going to talk to me? Because I'm confused. Because it's not that I don't care about you. It's that It's been 10 years and I know all your tricks, and we have so many responsibilities and so many people to entertain with our Punch and Judy show that how am I ever... I don't know what happened. I didn't mean it to happen. Well, I'm here to tell you what happened, Punch and Judy. The puppet church that you got married in with the puppet pedophile priests and the puppet popes, they're full of shit. You were never supposed to own each other by the puppet genitals. You weren't supposed to spend 10 years owning each other by the puppet genitals. You were supposed to let the relationship have a life of its own, a lifespan. You were supposed to... You built this little empire of puppet shows together. You built it together. You put all those shows on together. You get all those fans and all the people needing your Punch and Judy t-shirts and all the stuff you sell. You guys do that together. You're good at that. You're good at that. Maybe even you made a couple little tiny puppets that you follow you around and you teach them things, and your children puppets. Well, that's important too. Those are important too. You can't just leave them. They're little children puppets. They're going to grow up one day. You need that. That's a responsibility too. But something happened along the way. And let me tell you what, it's not your fault, because it's not that you weren't monogamous. You were. You were monogamous as long as monogamy, pure monogamy, lasts. Oh yes, I'm going to stand up for monogamy. Monogamy is quite real. Natural monogamy occurs when people are falling in love with each other. It occurs for the first while. Months, can be years. It can last for a period of a couple of years, maybe 5, I don't know. It can last for a while, maybe 6 months, maybe 2 years. It depends on the people and the person. Until you've learned a lot of each other's tricks and you're so ensnared in each other that you don't really have to prove it anymore, and something in your body goes, okay, they're in my tribe. They're in my tribe. I don't have to, it's okay to have other interests because we're tribal. We weren't born into nucleated arrangements. In the second half of the show, I'm going to talk about tribes in South America that don't even believe that sex is nuclear. They don't even believe that sex is a two-person event. Really. Not really. For a moment, but then not forever. That will blow your mind. Second half of this show. I'm going to stand up for monogamy now, because people always hear me saying that we're not a monogamous species. Oh, yes, we are, when we're falling in love. When we really need to rely on somebody for something, we throw all of our attention into it. That doesn't require sexual monogamy. It's just a time drain. You can have a great friend who you give all your time to. You can have a business, a job, a boss, an employee, whatever, who you give all your time to, a project. You can have a partner who you've been with for 15 or 20 years who you give... essentially your lives rotate around the same responsibilities, whether it's a house or loans or business or kids, whatever it is. You've got those responsibilities that America and the capitalism builds into us. Because if you were in a tribe, you'd be raising the kids with all kinds of people. You wouldn't have to worry so much about the kids, because the kids would be raised by the tribe. We'd all be supplying for the needs of the group. We wouldn't just be supplying for the needs of the one. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. Spock, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. The needs of the one outweigh... I never understood what they were talking about. Anyway, there's a game they played on Star Trek. The needs of the one outweigh the needs of... Because Spock died and then he came back and the same, whatever. The needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many. That was the joke. So, in a tribe, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. In other words, these two people who have mated have their time together. And then the tribal relationship becomes more important. Am I going to have to close this window? The dogs are going crazy. Hold on. I know. The needs of the many, you, outweigh the needs of the one, which was also you, for me not to leave for a second. Monogamy is quite real. Because love is real, and people fall in love. And when you're falling in love, you don't want to be... You want everything. You want it all from a person. You want their highs and lows. You want to know their insides and outs. You're exploring a new living maze of a person. You want everything. You want to know what every part of their body, minus maybe one or two, tastes like. Not the disease-giving parts. Anyway, you do. What does your mouth taste like? What do your genitals taste? You do. Don't tell me you don't. You want to know. You want to sweat with them. You want to bathe with them. You want to run and walk and play and dance. You want it all. That's falling in love. You want all of those moments, those tender moments, those binding moments where pheromones swirl. You get into your little discords. You figure out where each of you pisses each other off or does something differently, and you figure out if you can negotiate it. And God, you feel better when you learn to negotiate a little thing. Oh my God, how wonderful was this? I'm so in love. We were fighting for a second, and then we figured it out. I'm even more in love. Why? Because the relationship is deeper and it's more stable. So you fall deeper in love. But what happens after 5 years of that? And you're very, very stable. Very stable. Nobody's going anywhere. I mean, you can fight and you can still get up, make dinner, breakfast, whatever, go do the jobs that you do and come back and be like, whatever. It's not like anybody's going anywhere. I mean, you're a tribe at that point. So you don't, are you monogamous at that point? Is your head monogamous? How long has your head not been monogamous after you've been forcing your body to be? And here's the problem. Yes, there are many kinds of monogamy is real, and there are kinds of monogamy. There are kinds of monogamy. There's the monogamous relationship in which you're young and you can't imagine your friend ever having anyone else love or touch him or her because you've never really touched anybody else but him or her in a loving way. So it's all new. And you think that there's only one way to do it and one person to do it with. Well, you'll get your heart broken by something. You just disagree, you'll fight, and then you'll go out with somebody else and you realize that after a while, you actually get to love a variety of people in life who you get close with. And everything is a little bit different. And you love the people who you love always. And you miss them sometimes. There's that early monogamy. Then there's the falling in love monogamy that I've been talking about. I mean, unless you're really, I don't know, a swinger. But I think that the falling in love place is special. It deserves a lot of love and tenderness and respect. Like, let's give that falling in love space as much time and energy as we can. Let's be young, because falling in love makes you feel young. It makes you feel young and wanted and beautiful and like alive, that you can take on the world. And then you establish something. Then your feet are on the ground. You know where you're going. You've worked it out. You've talked about a lot of the plans. What is it that we want to, what is it that we're here for? Because we fell in love for a reason, we always say. What is it that we're drawn to? If it's just sex, the whole thing will split apart in seconds, because sex isn't a reason to be in a couple. It has nothing to do with being a couple. The reason you're a couple has very little to do with sex. The reason you're a couple is because you want to do things together. Sure, some of those things may be sex. That may be part of your relationship. It may be a good part of it. But the things you want to do together are going to take you places. And if it's raising kids and making kids, then you'll do that. Having a great this sort of American idea of the eternally great sex life that you're constantly spicing up because your interests have waned a little bit. Not that you don't like each other, not that there's not enjoyment or pleasure, but it's it's not quite perfunctory, but it's all each other's tricks. It's just, you just do, and you're so busy, and so on and so forth. Or let's say that you're the couple that lives for sex, and all you've done is keep that sex thing going, but you don't really know each other very well. You're going to be hungry to know somebody else. So whether you have the best sex life or the worst sex life, you're going to be hungry for something that's going to pull you out of this nucleated arrangement. And here's the problem with monogamy. We're not monogamous, we're tribal. We're tribal. It doesn't mean that you meet somebody, fall in love, and then, go fuck everybody. Excuse me, there's my curse word. Go screw everybody that you need to because, Liam said that we're not monogamous, we're tribal. That's not what I said. But you'll know when you're there at that place that you're both sort of going, well, don't we just both kind of... we do all these things great together. Do we have to keep this other thing going? Is it becoming a little bit of, not a pantomime, not a charade, but is it just... Can we release each other a little bit to feel young and alive again? To see if there's anything else that we're interested in instead of binding ourselves to one little horse and carriage for the rest of our entire days on earth? Yes, monogamy is real. It has a lifespan. Family, though, is what you get out of these long-term relationships. Family. And I have talked to couples. Some of them get it. Some of them don't. I have watched couples just annihilating themselves and their children and each other because they don't get it. somebody, let's say the wife in this case. Let's say the wife came to me and said, "Hey, I'm really interested in exploring some sort of sense of myself that goes beyond the relationship I've been in." I say, "Okay, you better talk to your husband about it." And they do. And let's say the guy goes crazy and comes down with jealousy syndrome, even though maybe he's been seeing people. Maybe he hasn't. Maybe he's just become so ingrown and attached to her that he can't remember what it is to have his own life. He can't remember it anymore, so he goes crazy. And then she's bad and she's evil, and then she feels like she's going to lose everything because he's pushing it all to this teetering brink and saying, "Oh, you don't do it my way, we won't do it at all." That's not the right idea. This isn't a "if you don't do it my way, we won't do it at all" game. This is family and tribe. Once you have that tribe, whether it's the business or a couple of kids or whatever it is that you have that are the things you have in common, even if it's pets, I don't know. Some people fight over their pets. Even if it's that, your monogamy, your love of each other was very real, and it gave birth to something. It's not the ending point. It gave birth to family and tribe. You don't have to swear to the thing that was the passage point forever and ever and ever, because the tribe you can't kill. You can't kill the family unless you really try. That's what divorce is about. It's about killing the family. So instead of killing the family because you think somebody is breaking their vow of monogamy, please give me a break. Never give the pedophile priests and popes any credit at all. I can't even begin to hear about the marriage vow that you make in the Catholic, Christian, Judeo-Islamic tradition. It's all about control of the woman, by the way. We'll do that in the second half of this show. What I'm saying is that the monogamy that you had was real, and it birthed something. It birthed tribe. You two are now related. You can't really break away from each other. Why don't you just decide that you're going to be grown-ups now, whatever is happening, and say, "You know what? We're always going to be important to each other. We're always going to be something to each other. Where is it that you're headed? Where is it that I'm headed? And how do we keep up our mutual agreements?" You're listening to the Liam Scheff Show on Truth Frequency Radio. We're coming to the break. And here it is. And we're back on UCY TV. You see why, don't you? You see why, because you get more of me. Yeah, you lucky bastards. This is the Liam Scheff Show on UCY, taking our little 3-minute break. We're talking about sex, love, marriage, and monogamy. Yes, I said I was going to do a show in defense of monogamy. I wrote a little book called The Truth About Love. It's about me, essentially, in my early 30s when I met a person named Helen, who was my best friend and my partner, and about how we discovered that love is bigger than we thought. And it wasn't always easy, and it wasn't always comfortable, but we discovered that love is bigger than we thought. I discovered that I could love my best friend, who was my partner, and occasionally, not every day, but occasionally it happened that we saw other people, and that would last for a period of time. It was surprising. It was shocking. That story really isn't in The Truth About Love. The story of how we met and how we became friends, and how our relationship of friendship, deep friendship that wasn't going to run away because of some hurt feelings, and wasn't going to turn its back because we weren't getting everything that we wanted in the moment. We both learned that life was bigger than our programmed needs, because we weren't turning our backs on each other. We weren't going to turn our backs on each other when things got to be a little hard, and we didn't. That's The Truth About Love, and it's a really funny romp through my early 30s, with a few exaggerations and a few non-exaggerations, and everybody's name being altered. Stories about other people woven into my life, or stories about my life woven into other people's lives, or stories that I've heard woven into a character here and there, but a lot of it being essentially true. The story of myself, if I had chosen a different path out of the artist that I am, that I don't do as much because I guess I'm more of a talker and a writer, but I'm a good artist. And it was the first thing that I knew that I could do, that anybody knew that I could do. I could do it well, and I could have gotten a job in graphic design, but guess what? I hated the art world. I thought it was full of disgusting phonies, creeps, liars, fabulists, just people making up their own little versions of the world. And in the 90s, it was people pissing on crosses and putting crap up their a-holes. No, I'm not joking. The art scene was ridiculous in the 90s when I was ready to become an artist. So I opted out and became whatever you think I am. You're listening to the Liam Scheff Show on UCY TV and Truth Frequency Radio. We're going to take a short, tiny little musical interlude and come back with the second half of the show. The second half of the show is all about tribes and how they arrange relationships around the world. Truth About Love, available on Amazon Kindle. Official stories on Amazon.com, paperback and Kindle. See you in a minute. Welcome back to the Liam Scheff Show. Deep sex talk is what we do. Deep sex talk. Liam, why are you always beating up on monogamy? We asked in the first half of the show. Well, I didn't. I told you monogamy is real for the period of time that it lasts, without strong mental conflict. When people are falling in love, they're most likely wanting to just get all the way into each other. And that can take months. It can even take years. It's not likely to take 10 years. But it can exist and does exist in all people at all times. An interesting thing that we did was we decided that that moment of falling in love, which is like the moment of getting pregnant, is the way that you should feel all the time. Oh, ho, ho, the joke's on us. Oh, ho, ho, the joke is on us. So drink up, all you happy people. Order anything you see. Have fun, all you happy people. The drinks and the laughs are on me. The joke's on us. It doesn't last forever. It's not supposed to last forever. That period gives birth to something else. It can be a business arrangement. It can be a lifelong project. It can be art. It can be children. It can be, running a home business or just getting everybody to work on time. But it becomes routine and a job, and there's love there because it's family. That kind of romantic love gives birth to family if it's going to last. Romantic love is far too intense to last for, 30 or 40 years. It can come and go. It can ebb and flow. You may have moments of it, but it's people also change over a lifetime. So they really do. You haven't. You're still the same person you were at 13. God help you, unless you're 14. But even so, you're probably not. And if you're 40 or 30, you're not the same person you were at 30 or 20, respecting those time age. You know what I'm saying. 10 years ago, you're not the same. Meet yourself 20 years ago if you're 40. Meet yourself 10 years ago if you're 30. Go meet yourself and say, God, you have so much to learn. What would you say? You'd sit them down like, listen, number one, 9/11. So you want to make any bets that you have to, like, short the airlines, do all that terrible stuff that the insiders did on that day, because they did. Number two, tech boom of the 90s. Invest in this company and this company and this company. Invest in Qualcomm and do everything with cell phones, and then pull out in about 98, 97, 98. Just get out because it's going to burst. What else? Oh, yeah. Don't be such an idiot. These 10 people that you think you're in love with, they're not good for you. So here's what you need to be looking for. 10 years ago, the stuff that you could tell yourself, the stuff you could tell yourself about yourself in 10 years' time, if you were living your life and paying attention, well, you could write a book. What don't you learn? I mean, dear Lord, what do you learn in 10 years? You learn so much. One of the things you can learn, as we start the show, is how to support independent journalism, philosophy, thinkers, and sex talk. You can go to my website, Liam Scheff, liamscheff.com. You can go to Fakebook, Liam Scheff there on Fakebook, or liam.scheff.one. At the top of, somewhere on the Fakebook page, on the About page, or on the YouTube page, right there at the top of YouTube, /Liam Scheff. Don't /Liam Scheff. Oh, sorry, it's an internet speak. You can go to my webpage, and there's a PayPal link. And you can go to YouTube, and there's a PayPal link. And you can donate $5 to $20, or whatever the good lords of finance have left at your disposal, to support independent journalism, philosophy, and thinking. If I've been of use to you in your personal, professional, medical, sociological life, why not pay me back a little bit? You think it's all free? Should it just be free? Well, hey, thanks, Liam. A lot of people say, hey, thanks, Liam, you changed my life. Well, buy a book. Hey, thanks, Liam, for all the information. I got this guy telling me I've written the greatest book. He still hasn't posted a bloody review. You want to say thanks? Say thanks. That's all I'm saying. And I will be very grateful in return. And we'll send you nudes of Margaret Thatcher. I have a whole collection. Liam will not be sending you nudes of Margaret Thatcher. That was a joke. But seriously, support independent research, philosophy, and journalism. Should this all be free? Should you just be able to listen to this for free? Should you be able to get all these ideas that you wouldn't think about on your own, or if you did, you weren't brave enough to say on your own? Should you just do that for free? Or should you say, hey, thanks, dude. You're putting it out there. You're saying things that we're kind of afraid to say, but we know they're pretty true. You're not advising that we all be polyamorous swingers. You're not advising that we don't have any more. No, I'm not. No, you're right, I'm not. I'm not advising that. I'm talking about love, long-term relationships. I'm talking about the way that we really, 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 really are deep down, how we're tribal deep down. So thank me for the work that I do by buying one of my books, Official Stories, The Truth About Love. My new book coming out in February, Valentine's Day, Deep Sex Talk. Or just throw $20, $5 into the kitty at PayPal. With my thanks, you can find PayPal on the YouTube page, on the Facebook page, and on my webpage. Just look for the PayPal link. And back to the regularly scheduled show. Yes, we are monogamous for periods of time. Those periods of time are in many ways unknown to us. Nobody knows how long they will last. It will surprise you that they sometimes end. If you're not... Here's the thing that nobody wants to say. If you're with somebody because you have good sex, you're going to get bored with them if you don't have more than that. If you're with somebody because you are there because they're just the best mind that you've ever met, you're going to eventually want somebody who you have really good sex with. In other words, this system is built to fail if you think that you're going to be lifetime monogamous partners sexually. You can be lifetime family. You can be lifetime tribe. You can be lifetime supportive friends who consciously effectively look out for each other's interests in a good way, in a productive, meaningful, kind, gentle, generous way. You can do that. But you do not get to control the complex layering of your psyche and what turns you on in different periods of life. You don't get to control or manage that. And if you do, you're going to become a neurotic psycho. You're going to become immensely, immensely fragmented. You're going to become difficult, even in yourself, to manage your own blustery of feelings and emotions. If you're a male, you'll probably become very controlling, and your jealousy of others will only increase because you're not living your own life. If you're a woman, you will also become very jealous. You might become micromanaging. You might simply become neurotic. You might start spending money on crap that you don't need. You might try to keep up your appearance well beyond the age that you really even have to worry about it. You might do a lot of things instead of just saying, yeah, you know what, we change over time, but I'm always going to be your friend, or at least I'm going to make the best effort I can to be your friend. Your friend, a person who listens, a person who responds, a person who gives and receives fairly, a person who looks out for your interests, not their own at your expense, a person who doesn't manage your feelings as a means of managing their own, but just allows you to find your way in the world. And if you have mutual obligations, then you keep those up like you would any job, any responsibility that you took on for money. You keep them up with somebody. If it's a kid or a business or whatever, you keep it up. You keep it up, or you talk about it and you figure out what you're going to do. So say we all. Thank you. But how do people around the world do it, Liam? How do people around the world do it? Well, I'm glad you asked me that question. There are essentially three cultures that we now need to look at in the second half of the show, the remaining second half of the show. The first culture is called a herding culture. A herding culture is something that emerged from the foraging group that we were all for 200,000 years, where we didn't own property, we didn't have tons of possessions. We're going to get to cultures like that. That's the middle culture. We'll look at a tribal culture that's more like a foraging culture, or a hunter-gatherer culture. A little hunting, a lot of gathering, and an abundance of food in the land. So you're not pressed up against scarcity, feelings of scarcity. Feelings of scarcity are what drive people in America all the time. We go shopping for more. If there's a sale, we buy more, because the market system has always assured us that things are going to run out at any time, so we just have to keep buying more. And if we don't need anything particular, like food or water, or if you drink milk, I'd help you, or salt, then you need plastic. And you need plastic shaped like things, shaped like fictional things, like Star Wars characters and Spider-Man and Hulk and Iron Man and all the other gods we worship these days. Okay. So the herding culture came about. The herding culture lived in hard, arid, desert-like conditions, near desert or desert conditions. And you have that in Arabia. You have that in the Levant, which is Palestine, Israel, Lebanon, Syria. You have this in Iraq, in Iran, old the old places of the Tigris-Euphrates civilizations of Sumer and Ur, the birthplaces of what we call civilization. Well, there were people around for hundreds of thousands of years before that happened. And the people got along quite well, thank you very much. But the civilizations that emerged were sitting in one place, and they were farming. Now, there were these other populations that drove animals across these difficult lands where they couldn't do as much farming. They could do very little. It was pretty hand-to-mouth, and you weren't going to get enough. So they had to tame animals, inbreed them, so they became, pale shadows of their former glory, and milk them, breed them, milk them, breed them, milk them, inseminate them, get them to inseminate each other, take semen from one, shove it into another, get them to mate, sell them for mating properties, milk them, cut their throat, bleed them, don't kill them, bleed them a little bit because you can't kill them, don't cut their throat, just cut an artery, and then patch it with clay and bleed them because you need that milk, you need that blood to mix with their milk so you get enough protein. This is a hard land. Imagine a land that's so dry and arid that you can't even get enough grasshoppers to get enough protein. I mean, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about herding cultures. We're talking about difficult land where you have to milk and bleed animals and then kill them, gut them, eat every part of them just to get enough food. That's a hard lifestyle. Those hard cultures developed hard ways of life. Hard ways of life. And this hard way of life involved managing people's fertility, reproduction, as well as they could. This often meant cutting the penis, cutting the vagina, to let you know that you belong, just like the animals that were being pushed around, you belong to a particular group of people. Well, if you can think about who in the world cuts the penis, it's herding cultures. The Hebrews, Maasai, who cuts women? Well, the Jews don't cut women, but dear Lord, I mean, the number of days that women are considered impure in Jewish Hasidic Hebrew culture, what is that, like half the month? Then penetration is only this very simple sort of in and out act, and God help you if you get fancy. And everything is shame. Everything is shame. Yahweh hates the vagina. Yahweh hates the penis. Yahweh hates. So you got to negotiate that one. Meanwhile, the Hasidim, not all of them, but some of them are definitely going to prostitutes just to get their normal allotment of sex. This is a herding culture. The Aryan culture, not the Hitler Aryan culture, but the Aryan tribal herding people who invaded India, Southeast Asia, were also a herding culture. And they changed the native traditions of Southeast Asia from an agricultural, more foraging group to being rather tough. Let's look at the Maasai. Well, no. I want to go through this a little bit more. So we're going to look at the Maasai in a second. Now, for all of history, we're a foraging culture, and I don't know if I'll have enough time to look at that, but we'll try. And then at the end, we have us, which is an amalgam. We're a farming culture that was impregnated mentally by a herding culture, so we bear the marks of all of those rules about sex. We want to abuse women; they're sex objects. We deify them when they're saints and have not had sex, and we mortify them and throw them to the hounds when they've had sex, and they're whores and sluts and dirty, unclean, don't touch them, trollops, tramps, etc., etc. When they've had sex, they're trollops, whores, and tramps, which is, of course, what men want, but they say they want the virgin, and if they find out their wife has, been a trollop, a slut, or a tramp, or their girlfriend, she's a trollop or slut. Saint in the kitchen, whore in the bedroom? Right, okay, what a joke. Women are, of course, very sexual. Men are very sexual. We're not okay with this. Let's look at what a herding culture does. I hate reading from the New York Times because they're propaganda, but let's look at this article and see what we can glean about herding culture. When they talk about AIDS or science, it's propaganda. Let's see what we can get here. Kajiwado Journal, Sometimes a Girl's Best Friend is Not Her Father, by Ian Fisher. 1999, it's 16 years ago. This is still, of course, a problem. Natawasim Mako fiddled with the edge of her desk and fluffed up her skirt, more than a little embarrassed to talk so openly about her young life. But these were the facts. For her hand in marriage, a friend of her father gave a small fortune of a dowry, 10 cows, 4 goats, more than 200 quarts of home-brewed beer, more than 6 pounds of sugar, and a sack of rice. They left off the Oxford comma there. Never mind. He was about 30 years old, she said. She was only 9. Nata Osim, full thin in her green school uniform, is 10 now. This is her second year in the AIC Girls Primary Boarding School, where she is a pupil rather than a very young bride. The school, on a dusty plateau in southern Kenya, is circled by chain link fences topped with barbed wire, meant not to deter thieves, but the fathers of the girls from sneaking them away. The school has become a haven for girls seeking escape from early marriage, a practice not at all unusual among the Maasai. The Maasai, as an insider, a herding culture, a tribe living in that part of Africa who, I'll just read what they're saying, perhaps the most fiercely independent and traditional of the 42 tribes in Kenya. And so, the school has found itself at the heart of an unending argument here in Africa about how the modern world is gaining ground on traditional life in Africa. The Maasai may still dress in plaid shawls, but more and more they're giving up nomadic life as their land is parceled off and the plains filled with houses. The Kikuyu, the largest tribe, have a saying that sums up the inching forward of change. Even the Maasai are wearing underwear now. But many Maasai families do not understand why the change must extend to one of their most precious and pliable resources, their daughters. And it has made it hard for the school, where 3/4 of the girls are Maasai, and its headmistress, Priscilla, as is its headmistress, Priscilla Nanguri. I think there are more problems than successes, she said, by way of wary introduction to her school. The fence, which went up 6 years ago, as well as rules that allow families to visit the girls 2 times each term. I'm just trying to find the bit. Here it is. Mrs. Nanguri said she is not on a crusade to destroy Maasai culture, even though she has been accused of that. Despite her abhorrence of female genital cutting, mutilation, or circumcision, for example, she said she does not try to stop it. Nearly all of her students have undergone one form of genital cutting or another. We are telling them, at least, do it on the holidays, she said, so the girls can have some time to heal before they get back. So, this is a herding culture. And believe me, I'm only skimming the surface. Let's talk about, here I have some quotes from another webpage. When you cut a girl, this is from Nashiru, a senior female genital mutilation or cutting or circumcision surgeon. When you cut a girl, you know she will remain pure until she gets married, and that after marriage she will be faithful. But when you leave a girl uncut, she sleeps with any man and brings disease into the community. I'm going to read from something called Anna's Friends. I don't agree with a lot of the crap on their page because all they worry about is fake Western ideas, but let's go. Folklore explains the origin of female circumcision in the story of Nape, a young girl who had intercourse with the enemy of her family, and whose punishment came in the form of circumcision, a decision her family took to prevent her from feeling the urges that had led her to commit the crime. So the crime she had was to have sex with someone the tribe, the herding culture, didn't approve of. So what do? They want to reduce sexual pleasure for all women from this point on. The Maasai are nomadic people who live in the central Kenya and northern Tanzania. The Kenyan Maasai number at 377,000. They're proud people who have steadfastly clung to their traditional values and customs. It is believed that 99% of Maasai women and girls have undergone a clitorectomy, which, I can't even read it, which involves the removal of the clitoral hood and all or part of the clitoris. Well, the procedure of the clitorectomy, the side effects include reduced sexual desire, bleeding often severe enough to cause death, infection due to poor sanitary conditions, complications during childbirth, often leading to stillbirths. It seems like it wouldn't even be a question. But then if you go into the pro-Maasai page, they say this is a way that young women come into adulthood, and young men know that they come into adulthood because around the same age they have their foreskin cut off, somewhere in their teens. And they're just so bloody sensitive about it. They're saying, you're killing our culture. Well, wait a second. Stop cutting people's sex organs. Keep going with your culture. Your culture isn't about cutting sex organs. But the Jews do it, and, all of us do it. All hospitals now cut the sex organs of males. We'd consider it barbaric to do it to females, but we do it to males. This is herding culture. Now, is the Maasai tribe monogamous? No, not hardly. They're polygamous, which means that a man can have as many wives as he wants. He can marry girls as young as, 9, 10, add them to his cadre if he has enough cows and money. So this isn't about monogamy. This is clearly about control of women and who gets a piece of the male sort of pie of ownership, the number of cows. It's all about the cows. It's all about the capital. It's all capitalism. Capita is the head of a cow in ancient Rome, and that's where we get the idea of capitalism. We're counting heads of cattle. So cutting isn't there to produce monogamous couples. It's there to produce women slaves. But do the women remain slaves? Well, no, they don't. It's also understood in Maasai culture that all women have a special arrangement they call a special friend. They call their special friend. And a special friend is, guess what? A man. Sometimes a woman, but often a man. Who does what? Guess what? Pays attention to their sexual needs and listens to them. I know. She's now moved from the position of object and possession and, dutiful worker of the tribal land in any way that she doesn't want to get beaten, to human being with interests and issues and concerns and desires and sexual desire, and she still has a G-spot, even if they've taken away the clitoris. It's an unbelievably psychotic thing to do. Who thinks that they would know, if they lived in this tribe, they would protest? Well, what do you do when you protest and you live in a tribe? First, you're shouted down by everybody, and you're so intimidated by all the yelling voices, you just stop talking. If you continue to try to protest, they shun you, and they push you away from the group, and you don't get fed, and you risk death. Still feel like protesting? Now tell me what kind of culture we live in. If a man has sex with people not his wife, what do we call him? A man. If a woman has sex with people not her husband, what do we call her? A slut, a whore, a cheater. Okay, now we call men cheaters too. We used to just call them men. That's the net effect of feminism. Then feminism saw that women were treated unequally. They saw that men could have affairs and women couldn't. And instead of saying women should be able to have more open sex lives, they said men should have more closed sex lives. Feminism then made us equal in a system of slavery. It's worth considering. So we are now equal in a system of slavery here. Nevertheless, men have many more physicalized short-term affairs and long-term affairs than women do. Women have them too. They often play more games, keeping them in the level of the head. They sometimes lack the total determination to experience their own love lives again, their own sexual hunger again. There's a lot of pressure that comes down from the top, from religion, etc., etc. And a woman's got to be rather extraordinary to say, you know what, I just am not dead yet. I'm going to see who I am. But we don't look favorably upon it. We say that we don't like it when men do it, and we doubly don't like it when women do it. And when they do, we suggest that there's one thing for them to do, which is to suicide their however many days, weeks, months, or years of relationship they've had, to suicide it, to burn it in effigy, call it a divorce, never really talk with each other amicably again, and pretend that they were never friends, just because they went through monogamy and gave birth to family. The monogamy part was over. They gave birth to tribe and family. They don't have to be monogamous anymore. The tribe and family exist. They're actually allowed to increase the size of their tribe at this point if they can negotiate those terms of being good, supportive friends for life. Most people aren't capable of getting over cultural programming. It's not in them. It's too hard. It's too frightening. It's too scary. What will other people say and think? Who cares? In the end, it's up to every individual to become their own person. Okay, so let's look at a different kind of culture. Let's look at dozens, maybe hundreds. I don't overestimate. Many dozens of what are called South American lowland societies. So not mountainous societies, but tribes who don't live at the top of mountains. there are dozens and dozens of tribes. Let's see. This comparative study of 128 South American, lowland South American societies, the prevalence of partible paternity beliefs may be as much as 2 times as common as biologically correct beliefs of singular paternity. Okay. So I'm reading an article from PNAS, the Proceedings of the Natural Academy of Science. No, not PNAS. PNAS. And this is an article that studied something called partible paternity. What does partible mean? Part, right? Shared. Partible, partitionable, shared. What does paternity mean? Pater, paterfamilias, paternity suit, father, right? Darth Pater. So, Darth Father. So we have partible paternity, which means shared paternity. And in these cultures, surrounded by forest, plenty of food. Unlike the Maasai culture, they're surrounded by water, they have enough food, they have enough material to make houses anytime they want. They came up with a very different rationale and set of instructions for how to make babies and raise them, and how to have relationships. It's called partible paternity. A belief system developed there that said that when a woman wants to have a baby, she actually has to accumulate the sperm, no, I'm not kidding, from a variety of men who she favors as good men, quality men, and then the baby is formed from that accumulation. We know this is not biologically correct, but it's interesting, because inside of the woman's vagina and uterus, there is the ability... The chemical process that occurs is that of, and the physical process, actually the mechanical process, is that of expelling sperm from less preferred donors. So the man with the chemical scent, the pheromones, who turns her, the look, the shape, the feel, who turns her on the most, i.e. gives her the best genetic donation to make a child, is the sperm that's more likely to get to the egg, even if she's been impregnated with a couple people's sperm, because the cervix will expel the stuff from the previous person who's less wanted. So they have this system of partible paternity, and in this system, a variety of men, a husband, a second husband, even a third, will participate in sex with the female during a period of time, and when she has a baby, they're all involved, they're all fathers. We're coming to a break on Truth Frequency Radio. Please support independent journalism research by buying my book, buying my stuff, supporting me on PayPal. We will see you in a second, right after the break on UCY. This is the Liam Scheff Show, Deep Sex Talk. And we're back. Okay, partible paternity is what we were talking about. So in these tribes, men will have a variety of female partners. Women will have a variety of male partners. Everybody is responsible for raising the children. Now, a husband and the second husband may not be best friends. They actually may get irritable with each other. So one of the things, because they might feel jealous, like I had her first and I don't get to spend any time with her now that she's with you, for a while, until she gets, till she knows him. Maybe they fall in love and they have enough time. An interesting thing, though, that makes this culture possible is the way that they arrange living situations. In the Maasai culture, the girl is sold essentially into the new man's house. They're always going to the man's house, the father's house, and then the husband's house. In the South American tribes, they're going to the woman's house, the mother's house. And in the mother's house, the daughters have more rights. So if the daughter wants to have a secondary relationship or a third over time, she can. And the men can do a little grumbling about it, but it's not that big a deal. One thing men do to get around jealousy is to feel that they have more in common with their second the second husband, is to make sure that it's their brother or cousin. So there's a family relationship with the girl. So you'll have two cousins having sexual relationships and making babies with a girl, and you might have sisters doing it with a guy, but at some point, the children are born and they sort of swap them out to a neighboring tribe so they don't become ancestral. That's just one of the rules around the world because of genetic inbreeding. So that's done safely, without any kind of horrible thing happening. And yet they managed to maintain these tribes for as long as anybody can tell. These tribes have been around. They're essentially from prehistory. These are ancient tribes that follow the foraging hunter-gatherer rules. So what are we going to say? There's also the Mosuo culture. The Mosuo culture is another one in which a woman stays in her mother's house, her mother's family, with all of the uncles and brothers and all that kind of stuff. They're there too. Anybody from the mother's line stays in one big house. The father comes along and may love and have sex with many times and have a long relationship with the mother, but the child is raised in the mother's house. Guess what they're allowed to do? They're allowed to take other friends and partners.